Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today I am joined with Tony from Plus One EXP, my favorite RPG channel out there that is covering the zines, the indies, the spin-offs that exist in this RPG world. And if you clicked on this video, it's because you're interested in a few alternatives, 5 alternatives to the D&D hierarchy. Yeah. Tony, introduce yourself, and then I'm going to take a step back and just be excited with the audience as you break down and explain what these special books you've chosen are.
So my name is Tony Vicinda, and I am Chief Alchemist at Plus One EXP, which is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. So we design games, we publish games, we make beard and skincare products inspired by classic tabletop tropes.
As one does.
And we also cover and help share small press and independent RPG publications. And right now, there's a lot of people who are looking for other systems that do something that D&D does, but maybe something it doesn't, or just want to try a different game. And so rather than looking at things like, Paizo and, Pathfinder, or some of the bigger names out there, or some of the things that constantly get mentioned like Morkborg, which are absolutely great systems, or Troika, I wanted to dive into a couple different things. One that we publish, but 4 that we don't, 5 games. And we're going to go from most mechanically like Dungeons & Dragons to least mechanically like Dungeons & Dragons, but these are all within the realm of fantasy also. So if you want to play a fantasy role-playing game like Dungeons & Dragons, these are going to be 5 games that you can pick up and do that with.
And just to challenge those of you that are board gamers out there, because this is a board game-centric channel, and those of you that are RPGers at heart like I am, I would challenge you to pick the one that you find the most interest or the most engagement in. Go out and purchase one of these, because these really are going to be like half the cost of your average board game. Yep. They're not going to be a big investment at the forefront. And if you're usually playing something like D&D, do a one-shot, run a system, try something out with your game group. There are new things out there that are worth exploring. And if you're a board gamer and you don't mind the fact that this channel takes long, extended pauses to do things like read flavor text, you're actually an RPGer. I will assert that. And you should really get one of these into your hands and give it a run one game night. Learn the rules yourself. It's going to be about like reading a rule book for a board game and sit down and tell a story. Could be more mechanically driven, could be less mechanically driven and more thematic and more experiential. You decide where you want to place that weight. But I want everyone that watches this to ask yourself the question, do you own something like this? And if you don't, give it a little bit of a try. It's worth exploring. Awesome.
So we're going to start with a shameless self-plug. I'm the developer on this system. I'm the publisher of this system. And that's Down We Go. Down We Go is a old school inspired, so like classic Dungeons & Dragons vibes, D20 based system, plus you add a roll modifier.
So right? A D20 is going to be, you're going to be rolling a
20-sided dice, the kinds you see from Dungeons & Dragons. We've got some really cool art by Simone Tometa in here. These beacons are kind of like things you want to keep in mind while you play, right? Like the type of play you're about to engage in, so you get a chance to know, hey, this is what this game's all about. Is this game for you? But
you could loot 1,000 dungeons, but thousands still await you. It's our world, and we play here. Let the game surprise you. Infinite problems, infinite solutions, and you aren't heroes, but you might leave your mark.
Right. And then the further down and farther in, right? So the reality is, we built this game to do a lot of what classic dungeon crawling games do, which is get you into the dungeon and exploring this weird underground space. But we also built on top of it these huge narrative things in this constantly changing city that warps and moves every time you leave it to go to a dungeon and then come back. But here's the coolest thing. These are the rules. These is the character sheet and all the core rules here at the bottom. These 4 roles can be blended together to make different kind of customized classes, or to go deep into the exact type of character you want to make.
And if someone doesn't want to read this or completely understand what a RPG rules page is about, you probably have a 3 to 5 minute video on your channel that breaks this down as well, right?
We do.
Get someone up and running, even without this being knowledgeable to them.
Absolutely. And we play it on a regular basis on the channel, and we don't do a lot of performative stuff. It's very much, this is what it looks like when friends sit down to play this game.
A little bit of time as someone that wants to run this for your own system, read this page, read a little bit into the book, check out some content on your channel, just enough to get your ideas flowing.
And be ready to go.
And
if you're the GM, these are the rules you need to know in addition. And that's it. Everything else is different dungeons.
I was going to say, one of the things that's deceptive about RPG books is they look like a lot of work. And then again, you're flipping. You're on page 9 here. You're shorter than almost any rulebook of any board game I have ever played. And this is actually the area within which you're going to be experiencing the game.
And each of these dungeons can be used multiple times. You can go back to them over and over again. There's rules for the city. There's rules for overland travel. There's weird factions like the Froth Harkers who, as the ocean moves around the city, they listen to the song of the ocean and rebuild the dock into the most advantageous place. The Brewers Guild, which is in a rhyming war with the Sewers Guild.
Oh, stop.
There is the Sinuous Rills, who like to lock down and remeasure the constantly shifting city. And then there's my favorite default faction, the Dirt Lickers, who just love to eat different flavors of dirt and use their knowledge of it to cast weird elemental spells. It's a gonzo, bizarre setting. Different parts of the city that you can explore together. Just a lot of different stuff to get you up and playing. And Jesse, you will appreciate this more than anything else. There are solo rules back here in the back. So even if you cannot play with a group of people, you can play by yourself.
I've made a commitment to do a few solo RPGs here on the channel to start exploring this world that I have invested in, but haven't done enough content in or enough actual just play experience.
And Marcus Lindrum is a designer, I was a developer, but we had a global team of about a dozen voices that helped design the different elements from Southeast Asia, from Europe, from the US, from Canada, from Latin America, all who contributed to this book. And so it's a very global conversation around design.
So in a single sentence, I'll set you up and I'm going to do this. This is better than D&D because...
This is better than D&D because I made it. No, this is better than D&D because literally if somebody has never played an RPG before, they can sit down, take 5 minutes to read the rules, build a character in that time, and then start playing when you say, you've entered the very beginning of the tomb, the Dirt Lickers hired you to come down here to find a very special sample of dirt. You see a long corridor going down into the darkness. What do you do?
Where are we going next? What journey are you taking me on?
We're going to keep on going across. We're going to go to Mouse Ritter next, actually.
Okay.
Which, very popular. Games Omnivorous. I think one of the best publisher out there. Makes some of the most beautiful games you can do. This is the core box set. If you like a box set. This is the Estate, which is an adventure set that's going to come with it. But an absolutely gorgeous RPG. Again, you're going to notice it's a very slim text once you get into it. And again, the core rules, the player rules, are how to make a mouse is 1 page. How inventory works is about 3 pages. How to play is about 3 more pages. By page 12, you're done with the core basic rules of how to play.
So other than the theme, the setting, the adorable nature of this, and the fact that each one of these one-shots is a fold-out and little pamphlet here. I mean, this is what you need, not a full book to run an adventure. What is this doing that's similar, different, and better than some of the D&D alternatives?
So you're going to notice some similar kind of roll things. It's going to be a roll check system where you're trying to roll underneath the different stats that you have. So the higher they are, these do that. But it's going to be pretty familiar as far as most of that goes. One of the coolest things it does, though.
That's my alarm going off.
One of the coolest things it does, though, is the inventory system. You'll notice these are character sheets. This is a little folio pad of character sheets that you can write out. It's pretty easy to create a character, but you're going to have these different chits. So if you're wearing heavy armor, you have to be able to fit that onto your body. If you're carrying things, they go in your little backpack. So managing your inventory is actually this little mini game where you've actually got to fit all the stuff on here. But if you've ever wanted to go on adventures like you do in Dungeons & Dragons, but have it be more Redwall, Mossflower, mice going on big adventures in the world of humans, then this is a great thing. And there's also very great kind of childlike quality to it while you're doing those things. But it's a very innovative, very cool, very beautifully designed system.
This is better than D&D because...
This is better than D&D because the quick pickup on this, but also the unique reality of being mice going on adventures, lets you play around with a very different frame of reference for the type of heroes that you are. You are inherently not big and powerful, but you are still noble and brave. And I love that.
I love that. Where are we going next? What are we swinging into?
We're going to go over to some very different systems. Now, let's go to mazes next.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Okay, 9th level games. Fantasy role-playing Reinforced. Mazes. What's going on here?
So Mazes uses the polymorph system, which is one of the most mathematically unique RPG systems that's out there. If I tried to describe this to you, you'd be like, I don't think the math is going to work on it.
What do you mean by mathematically unique? Because there's a number system given to like D10s, D20s. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, so like in the same way that game design is a lot of math and you don't need to understand any of it to enjoy the game, it's the same thing for this. So the way it works is you're going to pick the type of character you are. If you're a magic user, you're going to be a D4, and that's the only dice you're going to roll. If you are a nimble thief, you're going to be a D6. If you are a fighter, a brave fighter, you're going to be a D8. If you're a big hulking like warrior or paladin, you're going to be a D10, right?
Okay.
And certain different types of rolls. Using magic, you want to roll very low. Using might and doing battle, you want to roll very high.
Okay.
So a wizard is going to have a hard time beating somebody up because he can't roll into the range when he rolls a d4
Sure.
he needs to. But a wizard crits on either a 1 or a 4. So a wizard crits like 50% of the time.
Whereas if you're rolling a d20 and trying to cast magic, you're going to have a hard time because you have so many numbers skyrocketing above it.
And you're going to have a really hard time. Now you have special currency, like a meta currency you can use to still do things like cast spells if you're a paladin, or there are things like that. But it is an incredibly satisfying narrative experience that lets you do very cool things on screen. We've gotten to play this a couple different times. There was the Dark Tower board game. Do you remember Dark Tower board game?
Yeah.
They just did Return to Dark Tower, right, where they reprinted the Dark Tower board game. They did an RPG version of it that it was done using the polymorph system.
Oh, interesting.
Where you travel around the Dark Tower recruiting people to your war parties. You're still playing a central hero, but you go and you do all these missions. It uses the core polymorph mazes system.
Yeah.
But then it layers it on top of the narrative of Return to the Dark Tower. And it is
very cool.
an absolutely phenomenal experience. And the tower for that adventure setting is bigger than the tower for the new board game.
Now, I saw through the front of this that there is a little bit more rules overhead than some of the others that you've shown
Correct.
off in terms of what you're getting in. How equivalent is the rules overhead in terms of comparing to like a D&D starting book for the players and for the DM? What's going to be the battle here?
So I think the biggest thing is you're going to want a little bit more of an experienced DM with this. You're going to want somebody who knows how to navigate a rules book. You're going to, just like any other game, you're going to want them to read the rules and understand it and then break it down. The character sheet has most of the rules the players need to know on it. You'll notice that as a theme in a lot of other smaller weight games.
So once you create your character, once you get the infrastructure there, you really have everything on hand as long as you have a good DM to run this for you.
Right, and there are a lot of different types of characters in this compared to a lot of the other games we've talked about.
Whereas some of the earlier ones, and correct me if I'm wrong, I do feel like some of the zines and some of the early ones you just showed cater maybe a little bit more towards a newer DM. Like your first one.
Down We Go can. It can be a little bit deceptive, though, because a lot of times...
I'm not saying it's not deep.
One of the things that D&D does well is long GM support sections. Now, whether they're actually teaching the technique well, whether they're actually imparting the information cleanly is a question, but there's a lot there. A lot of the slimmer texts are a little bit lighter on the technique.
You
of how
bring a
to
little bit
DM.
more of yourself to the table.
Correct.
That being said, as the perspective I have, where I love doing that anyway, and I'm a natural DM, a game system like that allows me the freedom to do that. And if I'm okay bringing that to the table, if I've already signed up for that, then these are going to lean a little bit more towards someone who just discovered D&D, just played for the first time, and wants to start running a group or introducing their group to it.
Yeah, so Mazes is going to be a little bit more robustly built out, have a little bit more support, have a few more options that you can pull the triggers on.
And sometimes that's really nice. If you need a little bit more framework or you want a little bit more rules-centric, like if you're coming from a board game-only space, and you want to know the parameters that you're putting people through while still having a little bit of narrative or a little bit of story, something like this would set you up well for that.
Correct, yeah.
Cool. This is better than Mazes is better than D&D because...
every time you create a character, it's going to feel totally unique from any other character at the table because of that dice change.
That's cool. That is very cool. You're not all rolling the same swath of them.
Let's go to trophy next. This is a system I've been so excited. This showed up at my door like I was anticipating this hotly in December, like all month long. There are actually 3 books in here. So if you're looking for that classic 3-book set, right, because you like that's classic, hey, I'm a role player, I want 3 books. These are not the 3 books you're typically going to get with D&D. Gauntlet makes amazing things. Hedgemaze Press, Jesse Ross is the designer of this. They're absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. And they really are 2 different games and a support book. Trophy Dark and Trophy Gold use these same core rules. They are D6 based. You're going to make dice pools and have dark dice, which create potentially ruin, corrupting you and making your life harder, but also a lot more interesting and potentially powerful. And you're going to have light dice, which are safe dice to essentially roll. But in Trophy Dark, you are treasure hunters journeying into the forest or into an area that's going to constantly corrupt you and drive you mad. You're going to go in 5th ring, 4th ring, 3rd ring, 2nd ring, 1st ring. Some of you are going to die along the way, and you will start being part of the world that is trying to corrupt the other people. And then at the end, you will be driven mad, and you will go insane or die.
I cannot tell you how desperately I want to play this. This is the second time I've sat here and looked through these books, and just you describing what is in these worlds and the system that's being set up here. I didn't know I needed this one. Yeah. I now know I need this one. What's going on here with Trophy Gold?
Trophy Gold is more of the classic fantasy. You are not necessarily going insane. You are not necessarily going to die. But you might. But you're going to have these heavy, dark, gothic adventures that do really amazing things. And these are very story game oriented. So if people are looking for a little bit more of a storytelling feel, right, but with kind of classic old school role-playing vibes or with that high fantasy look, this is going to bring that in, but it's going to bring in this heavy, grim, dark element to it. Now, I will say that I really enjoy both of these. I like Trophy Gold a whole lot, but I do play a lot of Trophy Dark. And Jesse and the publisher, Jason, have done a ton of work to make this a very amazing set. Are you going to read something out loud?
When I tell you that I'm a simple woman, know that I mean that only in terms of my needs. I've studied under some of the finest minds of Amberit, perfected my hold on the arcane arts with court sorcerers of Nagay, and read every book that has ever crossed my path. My perception is sharp, and my judgment is strong. Oh, I want to be in this. Right. I don't even want to listen to you anymore. I just want this book. I just want this book.
And here's the best part. They shipped the books. They haven't shipped all the cool bobs, the coins, the dice, all the other thing that I backed at a high level, then backed at a higher level in the Pledge Manager. I am so excited about this. If we will be in our web store publishing a lot of Trophy Gold over the next few years and a lot of Trophy Dark. In one of our other videos, we're actually going to talk about some hacks of this that do very different things, not fantasy. But you got those 2 books that are, again, same core rules, different settings, and there's some cool meta mechanics that allow you to advance through the thing. Trophy Loom is the world. It's threads. It's the tapestry, so that if you are playing an ongoing campaign or want to build your own things set in the adventures of this world, if you want to do the narrative pieces, here's all of those different things.
Welcome, stranger. Welcome. Come in from the rain and rest your feet. I will see if there's any pottage left over from dinner while you warm your bones and gather your purse. Yes, 1 coin for a room and board for the week. Thank you.
So one of the other cool things is you'll notice the layout on this. It's a lot of dashboard view.
I was looking at those
wide things. You're getting a lot of information on the page, and you're able to take in a lot, which makes it very easy to not have to flip around. In the book, the adventures, again, are very tight. They're called incursions, right? Because you're going into these dark spaces and exploring them. And you'll notice a lot of times there's these 2 different roll tables. These are what I told you about earlier, a D66 table. So if you roll 2 D6 and 1 is black and 1 is white, then this is where you are headed.
Yeah. This looks so cool. All right. The next one. And this next one, just off of reading the title.
I picked this one specifically for you.
I do feel like you have started catering your choices for what will sell Jesse another art. I'm already buying into the trophy system.
Right.
I'm going to be there. And then you present something called Back Again from the Broken Land, and I don't need you to say more. This sounds like it's for me. But I do have to ask you one question before we get there.
Okay.
Trophy. Trophy is better than D&D because?
Trophy is better than D&D because, and this I'm going to give you 2 answers to this one. One, because of the way Gauntlet Publishing invests in the creative community around it.
Cool.
2, because it actually embraces the narrative beats that people are typically trying to recreate when they are doing it, and it builds it into the actual process of going through the adventure.
Cool. Back Again from the Broken Land.
This one has the least in common with the general themes of D&D, though it is classic fantasy. This is a powered by the apocalypse system, so we're rolling 2d6. We're adding things to it. We are taking that sheet out of the paper out there. But again, we're looking at a very serious thing. This is by Alexi Sargent from Cloven Pine Games, who I absolutely love everything Alexi makes.
It's a good subtle hint that you're not a paid shill. You bought your game.
Yeah, I mean, or we get a lot of them to sell off. I actually helped fulfill this, so I shipped all of these out. And so, but Back Again from the Broken Land is essentially, you are playing as small adventurers who had some part in overthrowing the Doom Lord, and you are now making your way back home to your small village through the Broken Land. It is what happens to the hobbits.
Did I back this?
You did back this. I 100% shipped you a copy
of this. Yes! Where is it? It's somewhere around this house.
So Back Again from the Broken Land is essentially you are hobbits after you have defeated Sauron and are headed back home to your village.
The big story's
going
over.
Going back through the land and being chased by the minions of the Dark Lord that are still around. You are stopping and having meals and trying to heal from the wounds of the journey there and deal with the fallout that you encounter in this land transformed from what it was like before. When we played this on stream, we were most of the way through before we were like, are we telling a Mario Brothers story? Like, am I Luigi and are you Mario? And are we just two weird brothers? And is the Doom Lord Bowser? Because the way we've described him, it feels a lot like that.
Exactly, yeah.
But we were literally in tears while we were describing the catharsis that my brother and I were having over a plate of eggs that we had scavenged from a wild bird on the hillside. Because it's just these deep, rich, emotional themes, but it's all the fantasy trappings of Tolkien-esque literature that we're looking for.
It's a good example of, and you said it's the farthest away from D&D, but it's a good example of some of the stuff that I personally look for when it comes to exploring the world outside of classic RPGs for the framework of what RPGs can do. I have a lot of books that we've gone through in my personal collection that are meditative, or solo, or an experience between two players that reconcile things like grief and loss and death and faith and the beauty of life around you. And that's something you can get in D&D. There are 100% moments like that give you that. But sometimes a book that is designed, that is, a couple dollars and designed to allow you to touchstone into that. What does the world look like once the big thing has happened, and we now have to deal with the consequences of that as we go home?
Like a lot of actual plays will engage in that post-credit scene, that monologue, that what do we see from your characters afterwards? And
very few play in it, though.
Yeah, and they can be some of the most endearing moments, and we will look at each other and we will cry, and we will realize our characters love each other in a way that has seeped over to us. This asks you to not just say, hey, do that at the very end of your session, but to live in that space. And you will hear people who play D&D over again say, we had the best session ever and we never touched the dice because they are doing the things this book asks you to do.
I could see or feel something like this giving a DM the framework necessary to actually invert or what's it called? Hack their own game experience in another system
100%.
Where they use the model that this one establishes and says, hey guys, you just defeated the boss. You just defeated this. Now we've got 2 sessions left, or now we've got 1 session left, and this is how we tell that story.
Yeah.
It could close out. It could be the thing that solidifies those memories and reconciles them in a living way. Back Again from the Broken Land is better than D&D because
it embraces the second part of the hero's journey that D&D completely ignores unless you decide to play it.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. Please swing over and subscribe to Plus One EXP. You all do amazing work, and being around you and being infected again with the bug of indie RPGs and the world of RPG that goes beyond what I'm generally familiar with has me so excited to dive into these, whether it's a solo creator or whether it's with the group that I have here at Quackalope. And then on top of that, again, I'm going to reiterate the channel. If you've watched to this point, and you don't have one of these, you don't have at least one of these games, take the time to go support a bit of this community. Take the time to buy into something that is verifiably good, right? You've watched, you're interested, and you have someone here that is an expert in this field and is vouching on behalf of these systems. Go pick one up. Go see what it can do for your game group. Go spend a session exploring it. It's worth it, just like it's worth picking up another board game, just like it's worth seeing what types of experiences you and your friends can have while you sit around a table. Whatever the case, though, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing.
Try an RPG.
Try an RPG. We'll see you next time.